My fiancée, Lily, 27F, and I, 29M, had been a solid unit for 3 years. She had this magnetic quality, smart, funny, made you feel like the center of the universe. I popped the question last year, she said yes, and we dove headfirst into planning a summer wedding. Everything felt golden, like we were cruising down the easy highway of life, or so I thought. One Tuesday, Lily announced she was heading back to her hometown for a bit. "Just need some quality time with my sister, you know," she'd said, flashing that smile that usually melted me. Her family ties were strong, and she hadn't visited in ages, so it didn't ping my radar. She packed a duffel bag, gave me a lingering kiss that felt perfectly normal, and promised she'd be back in a couple of weeks. "Miss you already," she'd murmured against my cheek. The first night she called. A quick check-in, got here safe, love you, sort of thing. Standard. But the next afternoon, the vibe shifted. My phone rang, her name flashing on the screen. "Hey," she said, her voice sounding distant, tinny. "I need to talk to you about something." My gut gave a little lurch. "Sure, what's up?" I asked, trying to keep my tone light. A pause crackled over the line. Then, "I think I need some time to think." The words hung there, heavy and confusing. "Think?" I repeated, my mind scrambling. "Think about what? Is this about the wedding? Are you stressed? Did I do something wrong?" My questions tumbled out, laced with an anxiety I hadn't felt before. She deflected, her answers vague. "No, it's not you." "Exactly. I just feel like I need some time for myself, for my head." I didn't want to crowd her, even though every instinct screamed that something was off. "Okay," I said slowly, choosing my words carefully. "If you need space, I get it. But Lily, please, just let me know what's going on. Talk to me." "I will, soon. We'll talk soon, I promise," she'd said. But the promise felt hollow, brittle. The call ended awkwardly, leaving me staring at my phone, a cold knot tightening in my stomach. "What the hell just happened?" I muttered to the empty room. After that call, communication went from sparse to non-existent. My texts, normal stuff, "Hey, how's your sister?" or "Thinking of you, hope you're okay," went unanswered, disappearing into a digital void. My calls went straight to voicemail. Even her usually hyperactive social media went dark. No morning coffee pics, no random thoughts, nothing. It was like she'd vanished off the face of the earth, at least from my corner of it. Panic started to claw at the edges of my calm. I reached out to her sister, Sarah, hoping for some insight. Sarah's reply was curt, almost evasive. "Haven't seen her much, sorry, she's doing her own thing." It felt like a coordinated shutdown, like the walls were closing in. My friends tried their best. "Dude, maybe she just got cold feet, needs a breather," Mark offered. Jenna was less diplomatic. "Pre-wedding jitters don't usually involve ghosting your fiancé for weeks, Jake." They meant well, but nothing eased the growing dread. This wasn't Lily. The Lily I knew, the one I was planning to spend my life with, wouldn't do this. We were picking out goddamn napkin rings a week before she left. There were no fights, no simmering resentments I could point to. I tortured myself replaying our last conversations, scrutinizing every word, every look, searching for a clue I'd missed. Nothing. It was like a switch flipped the moment she crossed the county line. Was she even with her sister? The thought, ugly and unwelcome, slithered into my mind. Was there someone else? I hated going there, but the silence was a breeding ground for suspicion. Nights became long stretches of staring at the ceiling, phone clutched in my hand, hoping for a notification that never arrived. Work was a blur. Social interactions felt forced. My life felt suspended, waiting for an answer she refused to give. After 2 weeks of this radio silence, punctuated only by the echo of my own unanswered messages, something inside me snapped. Enough was enough. Space, fine, but vanishing without a trace, not acceptable. If she wouldn't talk to me, I'd go to her. I threw some clothes in an overnight bag, filled the tank, and pointed the car towards her hometown. The drive was long, fueled by coffee and a grim determination. I rehearsed conversations in my head, oscillating between demanding answers and pleading for understanding. A part of me still clung to the hope that it was all a massive misunderstanding, some stress-induced meltdown we could fix. But another, colder part knew better. Things were about to get messy. Pulling up to her parents' sprawling suburban house felt surreal. It was a place I associated with holiday dinners and awkward small talk, not potential relationship implosions. My hand hesitated before knocking, my heart pounding against my ribs like a trapped bird. I knocked again, louder this time. Finally, the door opened. It was Lily. The look on her face wasn't surprise exactly. It was more like, oh crap, the inevitable has arrived. Pure, unadulterated shock, mixed with a healthy dose of guilt. She just stood there, framed in the doorway, staring as if I were an apparition. Jake, she breathed, her voice barely a whisper. What are you doing here? What do you think I'm doing here, Lily? I asked, my voice tighter than I intended. You disappear for 2 weeks, ignore every call, every text. I was worried sick, then I got angry. Now I'm just here for answers. She stepped back, letting me into the familiar foyer. It smelled faintly of potpourri and old furniture polish. I didn't think you'd actually come, she mumbled, avoiding my eyes, leading me into the formal living room, a museum of uncomfortable chairs and family photos. We sat down, the silence stretching between us, thick and suffocating. She tried the small talk routine. How was the drive? Did you hit traffic? Want something to drink? It was a pathetic attempt at normalcy, like putting a Band-Aid on a gaping wound. I cut through it. Lily, stop. Just tell me what the hell is going on. Why the silence? Why disappear? Her eyes darted around the room, landing on everything but me. She picked at a loose thread on the armchair. I've been trying to figure some things out, she said, her voice low, almost apologetic. But not quite. Figure what out? I pressed, leaning forward. We were planning a wedding. What needs figuring out that requires ghosting the person you're supposed to marry? She took a deep breath, the kind people take before delivering bad news. I ran into my ex when I first got here. Mark? The name hit me like a physical blow. Mark. The college boyfriend she occasionally mentioned, the one whose shadow sometimes felt longer than it should. You ran into him, I repeated, tasting copper in my mouth. Okay. And it wasn't planned, she rushed to say, finally looking at me, her eyes wide and pleading. I just saw him at the grocery store, and we ended up talking. Talking, I echoed flatly. It wasn't the word itself, but the implication, the reason it was being brought up now, after weeks of silence. Why didn't you tell me, Lily? Why didn't you mention seeing him? Her gaze dropped again. I didn't want to upset you, not until I knew how I felt. How you felt? My voice cracked, the anger starting to simmer beneath the hurt. We're engaged, Lily. Our wedding is months away. What do you mean, how you felt? Then something terrible happened, delivered in a voice so quiet I almost missed it. I've been spending some time with him, she admitted, the words hanging heavy in the air. Just talking, catching up. I needed to see if there were any unresolved feelings. The floor seemed to tilt. My vision blurred for a second. Unresolved feelings? I choked out, my voice trembling with a mixture of rage and disbelief. We're supposed to be building a future, and you're playing emotional archaeology with your ex-boyfriend while ignoring me completely? I needed to know for sure, Jake. Her voice rose slightly, defensive now. I didn't want to walk down the aisle with doubts. Don't you understand? Doubts? I shot back, my control slipping. So your solution was to shut me out? To leave me twisting in the wind for weeks, wondering if you were okay, wondering what I did wrong? All because you bumped into Mark at the freaking Piggly Wiggly? My hands clenched into fists at my sides. What does this mean, Lily? Are you still figuring it out? Because let me be crystal clear. I'm not waiting around while you decide if I'm your goddamn backup plan. Just as her face started to crumple, a heavy tread sounded on the hardwood floor in the hallway. Lily's father, Richard, filled the doorway. He was a big man, ex-cop stock gone slightly to seed, with a permanent air of disapproval and entitlement. He must have overheard the raised voices, his eyes cold and hard fixed on me. What the hell is going on in here? He boomed, his voice thick with aggression. He looked from Lily's distressed face to mine, his expression darkening. You, he growled, taking a step towards me, completely ignoring Lily. What did you do? Dad, please. Lily started, but he waved her off. I asked him, Richard snapped, his gaze drilling into me. I heard yelling. Sounded like you were yelling at my daughter. He took another step, invading my personal space. He smelled faintly of stale cigar smoke and entitlement. We were having a private conversation, Richard, I said, trying to keep my voice steady despite the adrenaline now surging through me. Private conversation? Bullcrap! He spat, his face reddening. You upset her! Look at her! You drove her back here, didn't you? Your actions made my girl come running home! Dad, that's not... Lily tried again, sounding weaker this time. Stay out of this, Lily. he commanded without looking at her. He turned his full attention back to me, his posture menacing. You think you can just waltz in here, disrespect my daughter in my house? I came here for answers she refused to give me, I countered, standing my ground, though my heart was hammering. Answers about why she disappeared while supposedly sorting out feelings for her ex. Richard's eyes narrowed into slits. Don't you talk about my daughter like that. Whatever happened, it's your fault. Men like you always think you own women. He poked a thick finger hard into my chest. You better watch your mouth, boy. Get your hand off me, Richard, I warned, my voice low. He laughed, a harsh, ugly sound. Or what? You gonna do something? He leaned in closer, his breath hot and sour on my face. You messed up. You made her leave. Now you come here harassing her? He lowered his voice to a menacing growl. Maybe you need to be taught a lesson about respecting women, about respecting her. And then, incredibly, disgustingly, he spat. A fleck of saliva landed on my cheek. Pure, unadulterated rage surged through me. I instinctively raised my hand, not to hit, but to wipe the vile spit off my face, my body tensing for a fight I desperately didn't want in this pristine, suffocating living room. Dad! Stop it! Lily finally shrieked, grabbing his arm, pulling him back just as I clenched my jaw, forcing myself not to retaliate physically. Jake, please, just go, she pleaded, her eyes wide with panic. Not for me, but for the situation escalating. Richard shook her off, but stayed put, glaring at me, breathing heavily. Yeah, get the hell out of my house, he snarled, and don't you come back. You're not welcome here. I looked at Lily, at her tear-streaked face, her inability to stand up to him, her complicity in this whole mess. The entitled arrogance wasn't just her father's. It was hers too, masked by tears. She expected me to just, what? Understand? Forgive? Fight her dad for her honor after she betrayed me? Disgust washed over me, colder and more final than the anger. Don't worry, I said, my voice chillingly calm now. I wiped my cheek with the back of my hand. I won't be back. I turned, walked out of the living room, through the foyer, and out the front door without looking back. The click of the lock behind me sounded like the closing of a chapter, a really, really crappy chapter. The drive home was a blur of fury, hurt, and a profound sense of clarity. It wasn't just the ex-boyfriend thing anymore. It was the deception, the cowardice, the disrespect culminating in that disgusting scene with her father. There was no coming back from this, not for me. The following weeks were strange. A numb sort of autopilot kicked in. Work, gym, sleep, repeat. I told Mark and Jenna the full story, including the confrontation with Richard. Mark was ready to drive down there himself. Jenna just kept saying, "Good riddance, Jake. You dodged a freaking missile." Hearing their outrage helped solidify my resolve. I wasn't crazy. Her behavior, her family's behavior, it was beyond unacceptable. I started the painful process of mentally dismantling the wedding. Contacting vendors felt premature, but the mental checklist was running. Venue deposit, caterer, photographer, a future evaporating before my eyes. The silence from Lily was absolute now. No texts, no calls, nothing. It seemed she'd made her choice, or perhaps her father had made it for her. Part of me was relieved. The other part felt a phantom limb ache for the life I thought we were building. Then, out of the blue, a text notification pinged. Not Lily. It was Mia, one of Lily's closer friends. Someone I'd always found pleasant, but hadn't known well independently. Hey, Jake, the text read. Heard about you and Lily splitting. Just wanted to check in, see how you're doing. Really sorry things went south. I stared at the message. Was this reconnaissance for Lily a genuine check-in? Caution Ward with a flicker of loneliness. I typed back a simple, "Hey Mia, thanks for reaching out. Yeah, it's rough. Doing okay, I guess." Surprisingly, Mia turned out to be easy to talk to. We texted back and forth over the next few days. She shared a story about her own bad breakup, creating a sense of camaraderie. It felt nice. Just talking to someone who wasn't directly involved, but understood the context. She listened without judgment, offered sympathetic platitudes. A few days later, she suggested coffee. "Get you out of the house," she texted. My treat. I hesitated. The idea of socializing felt draining, but she was gently persistent. "Come on, just an hour. Fresh air will do you good." Reluctantly, I agreed. The coffee meetup was fine. Normal, even. We talked about work, movies, complained about traffic. She asked about my hobbies, my college days. It was the first time in weeks I felt like someone was interested in me. not just the drama surrounding me. But then, towards the end, she leaned in slightly, her expression earnest. You know, Jake, she said softly, you deserve someone who truly appreciates you. Someone loyal. Someone who wouldn't dream of taking you for granted. The comment landed awkwardly. I mumbled a noncommittal, yeah, I guess, suddenly uncomfortable. I wasn't looking for a rebound, and I definitely didn't want to complicate things with one of Lily's friends. But Mia didn't seem to get the hint. Her texts became more frequent, flirty memes, suggestions to hang out again. It wasn't aggressive, but it was a clear escalation. One evening, she pushed for dinner. Just dinner, Jake. No pressure. Friends hanging out. I tried to demur, making excuses about being tired, having work to do, but she playfully guilt-tripped me. Don't make me eat alone. Against my better judgment, I caved. Dinner was a mistake. She arrived dressed up, perfume noticeable, makeup perfect. I was in jeans and a faded band t-shirt. The conversation flowed, but there was an undercurrent, a tension that screamed date, despite my efforts to keep it platonic. She laughed a little too loudly at my jokes, touched my arm casually a few times too many. It felt like she was auditioning for a role I hadn't advertised. Driving home that night, I resolved to put distance between us. No more one-on-one hangouts. I appreciated the initial support, but this was heading into territory I didn't want to navigate. It felt weird, predatory, almost, given the circumstances. And then, about 6 weeks after I'd walked out of her parents' house, 6 weeks of near silence, my doorbell rang. Not a polite knock. A series of insistent, rapid presses like someone leaning on it. My stomach plummeted. I had a sinking feeling I knew who it was. I opened the door and there stood Lily. Not tearful or apologetic, she looked annoyingly normal, maybe a little tired around the eyes, but she managed a tentative smile like she was dropping off misdelivered mail. Hey, she said, as if she just popped out for milk instead of vanishing for weeks and blowing up our life. I just stared, momentarily speechless. Hey, I managed, not moving from the doorway. She shifted her weight, gesturing vaguely inside. Can we talk? Against every screaming instinct telling me to slam the door, I stepped aside. Maybe she was finally here to offer a real apology. An explanation that made sense. Hope, that stupid, stubborn weed, flickered faintly. She walked into my living room, our living room, until recently, looked around and actually commented, wow, you've kept it really clean. Then she sat on the couch, patted the cushion beside her. So, she began, taking a breath. We need to talk about the wedding plans. I blinked. Then I laughed. Not a happy sound. It was sharp, incredulous, bordering on hysterical. Wedding plans? I repeated, the word tasting like ash. Lily, what the actual heck are you talking about? Her smile faltered. Confusion clouded her features as if I were the one being unreasonable. Well, yeah, she said, her tone shifting towards defensiveness. The venue called, they need final confirmation on the date, and I was thinking we should definitely go with the lavender chair sashes, remember? We talked about... Stop. I cut her off, holding up a hand. My voice was dangerously quiet now. Just stop. What part of our last conversation, the one where your father spat on me after you admitted to exploring feelings for your ex, made you think there was still a wedding to plan? Her face paled slightly. That was a misunderstanding. Dad was just upset, and the thing with Mark, that's over. Completely, I realized. It's you, Jake. It's always been you. I made a mistake. I was confused, but I know what I want now. She reached out, trying to take my hand. I pulled back as if her touch burned. A mistake? I echoed, pacing now, the four walls feeling like they were closing in. You call ghosting your fiancé for weeks, shacking up emotionally or maybe physically, who the hell knows with your ex, and then letting your psycho dad assault me a mistake? That's not a mistake, Lily. That's a goddamn character-defining series of choices. It wasn't like that, she insisted, her voice rising. I needed space. I didn't want to hurt you. You didn't want to hurt me? I scoffed, whirling around to face her. Leaving me in the dark for weeks, letting my imagination run wild, making me drive halfway across the state to confront you? That hurt more than any honest conversation ever could have. And now you show up here, weeks later, expecting, what? That I'll just welcome you back with open arms? Pretend none of this happened? Are you delusional? I came back because I love you, she cried, tears finally welling in her eyes. Predictable. Too little, too late, I said flatly. Love doesn't look like this, Lily. Trust doesn't look like this. Respect definitely doesn't look like this. I looked down at her left hand, at the diamond engagement ring still sitting there mocking me. My ring, the symbol of a promise she'd shattered. A fresh wave of anger surged. "Take it off!" She looked up, startled, tears momentarily forgotten. "What? The ring," I said, pointing. My voice was hard, devoid of emotion. "Take it off! You forfeited the right to wear that the moment you chose him over me, the moment you let your father spit in my face." Her eyes widened in disbelief, then narrowed. She hesitated, her hand hovering protectively over the ring. "Jake, don't do this!" "Take it off, Lily, now, or I'll take it off for you," I warned, stepping closer. Slowly, reluctantly, her fingers trembling, she slid the ring off her finger. It felt like a tiny, symbolic victory in a much larger, devastating war. She held it out to me, her palm flat. I didn't take it. "Put it on the table," I instructed. She placed it on the coffee table between us. It glinted under the lamplight, looking suddenly cheap and insignificant. She stood there waiting, maybe expecting me to soften, to reconsider. But my face was granite. My decision was made. "So this is it?" she whispered, her voice thick with unshed tears. "You're just done?" "Yes," I said, the word firm, final. "I'm done. Completely. You don't get to treat me like an option, Lily. You don't get to put me on pause while you sample the past and then come back expecting a welcome wagon. That's not how relationships work. That's not love. It's pure, unadulterated selfishness." Her face crumpled. This time the tears flowed freely. "But the wedding, my parents, they'll end me. We've told everyone. Deposits are paid. People have booked flights." She started to hyperventilate, sinking down onto the floor, clutching her head. "You can't do this. All those people waiting. You have to take me back. Please, Jake, please." She was rocking back and forth, a full-blown meltdown unfolding on my living room rug. I watched her for a moment, feeling a strange mix of pity and revulsion. This wasn't about love or us. This was about saving face, about avoiding consequences. "Get up, Lily," I said, my voice cold. "This pity party isn't changing anything. You need to leave." "No!" she wailed, grabbing onto the leg of the coffee table. "I'm not leaving! You have to fix this!" I'd had enough. I bent down, grasped her firmly by the upper arms, and hauled her to her feet. She struggled weakly, crying harder. "Let go of me, Jake!" "You're leaving," I stated, maneuvering her towards the front door. She dug her heels in, trying to resist, but I was stronger and far past the point of caring about gentleness. I opened the door and propelled her firmly, but not violently, onto the porch. "Get out, Lily," I repeated, my voice shaking slightly now with adrenaline and exhaustion. She stumbled, caught her balance, and spun around, her face contorted with rage and desperation. "You bastard!" she shrieked. Before I could react, she lunged back towards the open door. I slammed it shut just inches from her face, the wood vibrating with the impact. Immediately, she started pounding on it with both fists. "Let me in! Jake, open this door!" "We need to talk!" she screamed, her voice raw. She rattled the doorknob violently. "Lily, go home!" I yelled back through the door. "It's over. If you don't leave right now, I'm calling the police." The pounding stopped for a second. I heard muffled sobbing, then her voice, quieter but still audible. "You wouldn't." Then I heard her fumbling with her phone, her voice rising again, sharp and angry, presumably talking to someone. "Dad, he threw me out. He took the ring back. No, I'm still here. You have to come. Now!" A new kind of dread washed over me. Oh, hell no, not him again. Minutes later, headlights swept across my front window, followed by the sound of a car door slamming and heavy footsteps pounding up the walkway. Then the pounding on my door resumed, but this time it was heavier, more violent. "Jake! You son of a witch! Open this door right now!" It was Richard's voice, thick with fury. "You lay a hand on my daughter, I'll end you! Dad? Break it down!" I heard Lily urge him on from the porch. The door shuddered under a heavy impact, likely a kick or a shoulder charge. Fear, cold and sharp, pierced through my anger. This wasn't just drama anymore, this felt dangerous. Richard was unhinged. I backed away from the door, fumbling for my phone, my fingers shaking as I dialed 911. 911, what's your emergency? The operator's calm voice answered. "My ex-fiancé's father is trying to break down my door," I stammered, keeping my voice low but urgent, hearing another heavy thud against the wood. "He's threatening me." "My address is..." I gave the details, glancing nervously at the door, expecting it to splinter open at any moment. The operator assured me officers were on their way. The pounding continued, punctuated by Richard's roared threats and Lily's encouraging cries. It felt like an eternity, but realistically it was probably only 5 or 6 minutes before the wail of sirens grew louder, closer. Red and blue lights flashed through my windows, painting the walls in frantic strokes. I heard voices outside, sharp commands from police officers. "Sir, step away from the door! Put your hands where I can see them!" Richard's response was belligerent, curses flying. There was a scuffle, sounds of struggle, more shouting. "Stop resisting!" Then a sharp cry, possibly from Lily, and the distinct sound of someone being forced to the ground, handcuffs clicking shut. Peeking cautiously through the peephole, I saw Richard pinned face down on my lawn by 2 officers, his hands cuffed behind his back. He was still yelling obscenities. Lily was standing nearby, screaming at the police, looking frantic and lost. Another officer was trying to calm her down, get her statement. It was brutal, chaotic, and deeply, profoundly ugly. They hauled Richard, still struggling and shouting threats towards my house, into the back of a patrol car. An officer came to my door, took my statement, noted the damage to the doorframe. Richard was arrested for attempted breaking and entering, trespassing, and resisting arrest. The aftermath was quiet, but tense. The police left. Lily presumably went with her father, or was picked up. Silence descended on the house, broken only by the pounding of my own heart. I double-checked the locks, adrenaline still coursing through me. It was well and truly over now. But the ending was far uglier than I could have ever imagined. In the days that followed, I existed in a haze. Lawyers got involved regarding Richard's charges. I gave a formal statement, detailing the initial confrontation at their house and the events leading up to the attempted break-in. It was draining, rehashing the whole sordid mess. Mia texted again, expressing shock and sympathy about the arrest incident. "OMG, Jake, I heard what happened. That's insane. Are you okay?" This time her concern felt different. A little too eager, maybe? I thanked her curtly, keeping my distance. A week later, she suggested meeting up again. Just to talk, make sure you're really all right. I needed to set a firm boundary. We met for lunch, my choice, neutral territory, middle of the day. I let her offer her sympathies, then cut to the chase. "Mia, look," I said, keeping my tone gentle but firm. "I really appreciated you reaching out initially. It meant a lot when things first fell apart, but I need to be really clear right now. I'm not in a place to start anything new, and honestly, I just need space to process everything that's happened. I think it's best if we just maintain some distance. I hope you understand." Her smile tightened almost imperceptibly. "Oh, yeah, no, of course," she said, waving a hand dismissively, perhaps a little too quickly. "Totally get it, friends, right? I wasn't trying to make it weird or anything." "Thanks, Mia. I appreciate that," I said, relieved but still wary. We finished lunch quickly after that. As I walked back to my car, a movement down the street caught my eye. A familiar silver sedan parked halfway down the block. And leaning against a lamppost, pretending to be absorbed in her phone, was Lily. The angle, the way she held herself, it was unmistakable. She wasn't just passing by. She was watching me have lunch with her friend. My blood ran cold. I debated walking over, confronting her, but what good would it do? More drama, more denials. I got in my car, locked the doors, and drove away, my eyes checking the rearview mirror. The silver car didn't follow, but it wasn't a one-off. Over the next week, the sightings became more frequent, more unnerving. Her car parked down the street when I got home from work. A fleeting glimpse of her in the grocery store quickly ducking down an aisle, catching her eye across a crowded coffee shop before she abruptly turned and left. She wasn't approaching me, wasn't calling or texting. It was just presence, a silent, unsettling surveillance. It felt like she was waiting, testing my boundaries, or maybe just trying to remind me she still existed, still had some claim on my life. One evening, grabbing takeout, I saw her car again, parked strategically across the street from the restaurant. That was the breaking point. I didn't confront her. I got my food, went home, locked the door, and pulled out my phone. My fingers flew across the screen. "Lily, I know you've been following me. I see you. Stop it. This is bordering on stalking. It's not healthy for either of us. It changes nothing. Leave me alone." I hit send, my heart pounding. No reply came. I hadn't expected one. But the next day, her car wasn't parked down the street, and I didn't see her at the store, or the coffee shop, or anywhere else. The eerie surveillance seemed to cease. Maybe the directness of the text, the naming of her behavior had finally gotten through. Or maybe she'd just moved on to a different tactic. Weeks bled into months. The legal situation with Richard dragged on, eventually resulting in some plea deal involving probation and mandatory anger management. A slap on the wrist, really, considering. Mia kept her distance after our lunch conversation, for which I was grateful. Life started to settle into a new, quieter rhythm. I was healing, slowly but surely, starting to feel like myself again. Then, one night, deep in the dead hours of early morning, I was jolted awake by a loud whoosh sound from outside, followed by the acrid smell of burning chemicals. My bedroom window glowed with an unnatural orange light. Heart hammering, I scrambled out of bed and looked out. Flames were engulfing my car parked in the driveway. Thick black smoke billowed into the night sky. Pure instinct took over. I threw on shoes, grabbed my phone, and bolted outside, dialing 911 again as I ran. As I rounded the corner of the house, keeping a safe distance from the inferno that used to be my car, I saw him. A figure dressed in dark clothing, a hood pulled low, sprinting down the street away from my house. "Hey!" I roared, rage and adrenaline obliterating fear. I took off after him, phone still clutched in my hand, shouting into it, "Someone set my car on fire!" Suspect fleeing on foot, heading south on Maple. I pushed myself, sprinting hard, the heat of the fire radiating behind me. The figure ahead, a disappearing shadow. He was fast, knew the neighborhood, ducking down an alleyway between houses. I followed, gasping for breath. But by the time I reached the other end of the alley, he was gone, vanished into the night. Standing there, chest heaving, sweat stinging my eyes, the sirens growing louder, I knew. I couldn't prove it, couldn't see his face, but I knew. It wasn't Lily. It was her father, ex-cop. The prompt mentioned whispers of old connections, maybe not entirely clean ones. This felt like revenge, planned, cold, and terrifyingly professional. He couldn't get to me directly anymore, so he came after my property. The fire department arrived, doused the flames, leaving behind a charred skeletal wreck. The police took my report. I told them everything. The history, the confrontation, Richard's arrest, the stalking, my suspicions about who I saw running away. I mentioned his background, the potential motive. They listened, took notes, promised an investigation. But investigations need evidence. The figure was generic. No witnesses saw him up close. Richard naturally had an alibi, probably sleeping soundly at home, miles away. Without concrete proof linking him to the arson, the case eventually went cold, officially closed due to lack of evidence after a few frustrating months. The insurance company paid out for the car. It was just metal and plastic, replaceable. But the violation, the escalation, the chilling realization of what Richard was capable of, that lingered. So that's the final update. My car is gone, replaced by insurance money I haven't spent yet. Lily is out of my life, a toxic memory. Her father is out there, potentially capable of more, but hopefully deterred by the police attention, however brief. Mia is irrelevant. It's been a hell of a ride. Betrayal, confrontation, stalking, arson. Reads like a cheap thriller, but it was my life for the past few months. Am I okay? Mostly. Scarred, definitely. But I'm standing. I got out. And as I look towards rebuilding, starting fresh, one thought rings clearer than any other. I deserve so much better than any of that, and I won't settle for anything less ever again. Thanks for reading, folks. It helped to write it all down.